there you go. Okay, good. So, and it'll be posted out, provided I pull this all off technology wise. I'll get it posted out onto our website, or webmaster will. I won't. And so they'll be there for review as well. And for any, if you don't want to take notes, I was never a great note taker. Plus, I couldn't read my writing, so I had a double problem. But that's the way it goes. So, first of all, congrats getting on varsity crew for your first time. I think Quentin's had some experience moving in from I think the state of Washington, if I remember right. And the others have had some varsity experience as fill-in. So what I wanted to cover is kind of what's different about being on a crew, kind of what the crew will expect of you, and you can expect of them. And we'll get into some mechanics things, just so that some of you, going from 3-person crews to 5-person, not experienced working with a back judge, or now with at the umpire. Of course, the umpire for Minnesota now is in the offensive backfield. I do have some training docs that I will send out by position, kind of a cheat sheet, or a Cliff Notes version from my college days. You want to look at it that way? I'm going to silence my phone here so we don't get that interruption. At least I thought I was. Hang on here. Sorry about that. Yeah. I'll do one even better and turn it off. Oh, that was stupid. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So kind of just getting started. At this level, the games, they're more intense, obviously, than non-varsity. The players, they're older, they're stronger, they're more coordinated. They can make plays that the freshmen and sophomores can't. So that in one regards, there's some of the plays that were bang plays for you to make on a sideline may be a little easier because the players can make those plays. The coaches, they're more professional, especially the head coaches, obviously. And they've gotten better in Minnesota over the years. There's still some that are a little bit more difficult to work with. My advice there is, don't be afraid to communicate with them. Take questions from the head coach only. In your white hat will probably, in your pregame meetings with the coaches on the field that you'll be part of, that usually comes out. The coach usually wants only discussions with him. They usually don't want their assistants bugging you. They don't like getting an unsportsmanlike conduct call, a penalty, because of something their assistant coach did. So don't be afraid to communicate with them. Answer their questions as best you can. Obviously, be professional. Just one thing I want to say before I forget: the White Hat's responsible for notifying the schools of who's coming to work their game that Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, whatever it is. So what we're used to doing for our lower level games, with everybody notifying the schools, the White Hat will take care of that. He might delegate it to somebody, but they only send in one notification to the school. So we do. I think most of our crews use radios on the field. It's not required, but I think all of them are. And maybe in your discussions with your White Hats, you've already talked about that. We leave it up to the White Hat as to how they want to use them. Some do use them more frequently during the game than others.
Is that the 020?
Yes, that's the 020.
I'm assuming that's something we don't have to buy. They already have that from.
Well, check with your White Hat. We started using them my last year, and I bought them for our crew. Check with your White Hat to see how he's going to do it. And I just passed the radios on to the White Hat that took over for me when I retired. Each crew guy had his own earpiece, because you don't want to be passing those ear infections around. But I bought them in complete. They got the headset or the earpiece from me when I bought the radios. I usually then took them back and made sure they were charged for the next week. But check with your white hat on how they handle that.
Okay, we're getting together Friday, so I'll find out then.
Yeah, just I'm sure they'll bring it up, but just if it's not, just find out what they want to do and which ones they're using. So one thing with the radios, like I say, the white hats will kind of determine how they're going to be used. Hey, Kevin.
Keep this guy back, like next time it's work with him if we can.
Kevin Johnston. Kevin Johnston?
Yes.
I think we're getting a lot of background noise from you. So yeah, you're muted now, so we're good. All right, thanks. Just one piece of advice. Assuming you're using, I'm going to assume you're using the radios. More of our schools now have PA or not PA, but the ability for the referee to announce the penalties over the PA system. Not all of them, but they're starting to trickle in. If you get to a school that does that, one piece of advice, your white hat will probably bring it up. If they're in the process of announcing that penalty over the state MPA system, don't be on the radios, because that's going into his earpiece and it's going to confuse them. Could be a delay, and then it just impacts the quality of his announcement. So if and when you do run into those field mics, keep that in mind. And other than that, the white hat will determine how they're gonna use them and then under what circumstances. Equipment wise, just a couple of things related to what Minnesota does. Obviously, we will get into some cold weather games in October. Minnesota does not allow us to wear a jacket during a varsity game. So it's layer up time. Get your Under Armour gear. Smitty does have what they refer to as a cold weather. I think they call it a cold weather shirt. That's got some material in it that is somewhat water repellent and also keeps you warmer. But Minnesota high school does not want us wearing jackets during the game. Some crews will wear them before, usually a black jacket before the game and at halftime, but we don't wear a striped jacket during the game. Also, varsity games on the other end of the spectrum, the first couple of weeks can be warm. Varsity, we're not allowed to wear shorts for varsity games. Wisconsin allows you to do that, but not Minnesota. So we'll be in full dark black pants and a hot night. So if that comes in, so lower level games, you're fine to wear shorts as long as you feel comfortable, and jacket also when it gets colder, but for lower level. So just a couple of heads up there. Biggest change will be, other than the quality of the game itself, 5 people instead of 3. So compared to your lower level games, we had a back judge and then an umpire who's going to be in the offensive backfield. Minnesota does that. They've got the okay from National Federation to make that mechanics change. It started years ago on punt plays, probably at least 15 years ago. And then the pandemic hit, and then they moved the umpire back there in the offensive backfield for every play during the pandemic season. And then got the approval. They liked it, so they've kept it. And we've got a mix here of guys that are going to be umpires on the wing and back judge. So I'll kind of touch on each one of those as we go. The biggest thing is you've got a little bit less air you need to be responsible for, but you also have another official that you can coordinate with. So the wings will be coordinating with the back judge and also a little bit with the umpire and referee as plays come towards them, towards the sideline. But you definitely, for wings, you've got a back judge now that can help you, and you need to help him or her also. So then that's part of that coordination. We'll get into that a little bit more on keys and how that affects us. we have the standard rule book, we have the standard mechanics book, but for us in our association, we have 21 crews. We obviously have the guidelines for everybody. The white hat sets the tone for his crew as far as his philosophy. Some want to be sticklers with the rules, others are less is better. Make it, we like it that way, but each referee has their points of emphasis and how they run their crew. From the pregame session before the game starts to things maybe during the week. That's up to them to kind of handle their crew and run it. If you have any issues, definitely let me know. But we have, like I said, 21 crews. We have one official that's his first year as a white hat. Another official is his second full year, and actually really third full year if you count the pandemic as a full year. So we're experienced with white hats, and so we have some good guidance out there for all of our crews. I mentioned pregame. Each white hat, I'm going to let's assume a 7 o'clock start for game times. Definitely check your arbiter schedule. Some are at 6. There's a few at 5, and we actually have one at Columbia Heights at 4 o'clock, and I don't remember which crew has that. So make sure you're double checking and communicating within your crew your game times. White hat will let you know when they want to meet at the school. Most come dressed. Very few want to get into a locker room because the schools really aren't set up to help us with that. But whatever your white hat's going to do there, they all should be having pregame meetings before the varsity game itself. My crew with a 7 o'clock start, we were always there at 5:45 because we wanted to be on the field at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock start. I usually directed the pregame meeting. Some white hats will make assignments, if you will. Hey, Phil, we're getting some background noise on you.
Sorry, I thought I was muted, Jen. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No problem.
No problem. My bad.
Either that or we'll just eavesdrop on the conversation.
You'll find it interesting.
So white hats will each white hat handles their pre-games a little bit differently. And I always handled it. I led the discussion, but chime in. Obviously, you're new, so be a little tentative on jumping in on stuff. But definitely, you don't have to be silent for the year because we need your input, and you may save the crew on some things. So whatever their process is, just be ready for that. Once we get on the field, we will. Again, most of them try to get on at 6:30 in the metro area, especially the bigger schools. They want to go back inside before kickoff. That's what the big boys do, and they've been starting to do that. So they do their last few minutes indoors. So we try to get that flip done ahead of the time, usually by 20 minutes before game time. We don't do it at right before game time like college does. We get it out of the way, and then again, your white hat will coordinate all of that. You will meet with each head coach separately, just to verify equipment, everybody's equipped properly, and get all that liability stuff out of the way. Find out if they have any special plays, anything unusual to look for, reconfirm length of halftime. Standards 15, sometimes you'll get a 20. And we try to keep those meetings short. Coaches don't want to some coaches want to stand out there and BS. Most of us just want to get it over with and get back to their pregame stuff. We do the flip with the captains. As soon as that coach's meeting is over with, your white hat will tell you how you're going to do that. So we get that done. And then we need to just break out kind of by position and get some stuff done on the field. The two wings should get the chains, stretch them out, make sure they're 10 yards. Stretch it from the goal line to the 10 or the 10 to the 20. We don't want any surprises once the game starts. They'll talk to their chain crew. We will have some documentation. High School League has in the past had documentation on Arbiter in the central hub for the chain crews. I will be sending that to the ADs, but you will get a variety of quality on your chain crews. much better than lower level. Actually, the people in chain crews want to be there for varsity games. That's a little badge of honor for them. Some get paid, some don't. It's up to the schools. Just remind them they're part of the administration of the game. We've heard in the last couple of years some chain crews making comments about play calls, comments on penalties called, good call, bad call. And they're 99% of the time they are on the visiting team sideline. Home team has the choice. There's a couple of schools that keep them on the home team side, but usually they're on the visiting side. Just tell them, if you hear anything, any comments out of their crew, just tell them, hey guys, you're here to administer the game. You're not fans tonight. No cheering, no comments, and all that. So they've always been very good, but started hearing a few things last year that we needed to follow up on. Also, to get a look at your field markings. We're getting more and more turf fields, which is fantastic, but not everybody. One thing I always did as a referee in high school and also as a wing in college, I looked at the back line of both end zones because we use these fields for soccer and lacrosse, phys ed and other stuff. And most, I might not even say most, we have a variety of the back line being the same back line for football and soccer. Others where it's inside the back line, soccer lines inside the football back line, but usually a different color. Make sure back judges, especially, and the referee should, and umpire, because umpires could be back in that end zone with potential safety situations. Know which back line is yours for that game. It's always the white one, but you could have another one inside there. We don't want to get confused on a bang bang call. Check the goal line, just make sure it's, I always did that just so I could get depth perception on the field. I always like to move those down markers, those not pylons, but the little flappy things way back, because most of the fields have numbers on them anyway. For the wings, that's just a potential hazard for an injury. Get those back. Just get comfortable with the surroundings of the field. If you have a 25-40 visible 25-40 second clock, back judges need to make sure they know where they're at both ends of the field, and see what the scoreboard looks like, and just get acclimated to the field because they're all a little bit different. Everybody should be looking at player equipment as you're moving around. If you see players with their knees not covered, get them down. A lot of them want to do it pre-game and then they'll cover them up ready for, just let them know. I'm going to make a point for our white hats in their pre-games to say, hey, they're responsible for player equipment, which means knees covered up. And the emphasis this year is going to be on the field, during the game, if a receiver, whoever doesn't have his knees covered, tell them to get them covered up. Give them that warning. After that, send them out. And that's no longer a penalty. You just say, 22, you got to get out of here because your knees aren't covered. And that coach isn't going to be happy. But if we set the tone with them ahead of time, that's what we're going to be doing, it's not a surprise. And we got to be consistent on both sides of the field because those coaches will say, just like kids, they're not doing it and you're not calling it and you're calling it on us. We need to be consistent. The high school league has what they refer to as a contest report, separate from the ejection report, and we can report things like that. Last thing we want to do is penalize it. Just keep sending the player out, and that coach isn't going to be happy if one of his starters is not in there every play that he's supposed to be. And just get at it, that way. Usually the back judge will check the game balls. You don't need to have a pump with you, but just checking to make sure they're reasonable for air. Back judges will mark it usually on the white stripe with their initials or maybe the date, because we want to check in game balls before the game so that come time for kickoffs, they're not bringing in that slippery balloon ball that can go further and it's harder to hold on to by the receiving team. Only approved footballs should be brought in, and the back judge has the kickoff. Make sure that's a legitimate ball.
So
Now,
then
we
do
have
we, if we find one that is underinflated, do we go find the equipment?
Yeah,
The
just tell them we
equipment
need to
guy?
get more air in it. Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And usually they have two balls typically. And we try to get one under the goalpost on extra points so we don't have to our umpires and back judges are not going to be chasing footballs down back behind after kickoffs. Usually they'll put one, talk to the ball boys, have them put it underneath the goalpost, and we're ready to go downfield with it. We're not going to chase them wherever. And if you're Mount High School at one end, it'll go into a pond. So if you do have a game at Mount High School for varsity, they are allowed to use a different ball for kicking that into the field because it may go into a pond. And they obviously, Josh is in the business of selling footballs, and they don't want to be kicking his expensive, good footballs into the pond. So they're
I
allowed
think it's a great
to
plan
do
if they want to buy some more.
There's always something, right? But get familiar, and if you have time for wings, get on their line of scrimmage as a team runs their offensive sets. Just get your eyes acclimated. Nothing, you're not calling penalties, obviously. Just kind of get your eyes acclimated if you can. But be busy on the field. High school league sends out observers, and the last thing they want to do is see 15 minutes before game time, three officials huddle up just BSing when we got a game come. We got to get ready mentally and field wise. I was at a game last year with one of our crews. One of the officials stood with an assistant coach from the visiting team underneath the goalpost for 15 minutes before game time, talking. And that coaches see that. You're spending more time with their coach than ours. They're paranoid, and it's game time, and they want everything their way and not slanted the other way. So they're looking, believe me. On a weekly basis, stay in the rule book. Don't make it a once or twice and done by the time the season starts, and not worry about it throughout the year. Some guys will do a different rule each week during the season. I went through the full book every week, both college rule book and high school. That's the way I studied. But get in there, especially if you had a strange play the week before or a strange play in one of your lower level games. Get in there, figure it out, and then check with your white hat if you're not sure. Constantly keep looking at that rule book and studying it. As many of you have heard from me, Rule 2 is the foundation for everything else in the rule book, the definitions, and then going from there. Our priorities are still the same on the field. We're no longer a fan. We're administering the game. Safety, number 1. Sportsmanship, number 2. Fair play, number 3. Fair play being the rules of holding, pass interference, offside, things like that. Safety fouls we have to call. Clipping, late hits, blindside blocks, face masks, horse collar tackles. We've got to call those, even if they're not at the point of attack, because those are injury situations. Sportsmanship is usually at our level taunting, excessive celebration. Potentially, you may get a racial slur. It's hard to hear them because it's usually not said. Somebody may swear at you or swearing at the other team. Sportsmanship's number 2, and then we get into the fair play and adjudication of the game, and that's where we start getting into the gray area. When do we call holding? When don't we? We'll get into that a little bit more, but in that order: safety, sportsmanship, and then a fair playing field for both teams. Penalty. I'll talk penalty philosophy a little bit. We don't have quotas. We don't have to have 2 holding calls a game. Coaches think we do, and if there hasn't been one late in the game, you have a holding call, you'll hear a coach say, "Well, I guess it was time for one." And what I did with my crew for the real physical type penalties, holding, pass interference, personal foul, we want to be able to tell the team, the coach whose team committed the foul, why we called it. It's good use of the radio. I'll pick on Paul St. George. He's got a holding call. Just say on your radio as you're getting ready to mark it off. It was a hook and turn. He bear hugged him. He pulled him down. A hard tug of the shirt. that way the wing can tell that coach. He may not agree, but at least he knows what we saw, and we can tell him we saw something. Versus, well, again, it was time. We were on a drive, and we haven't had a holding call all night. It was time for one. Pass interference, hook and turn, came in too early, arm bar, those type of categories. Be able to tell the coach, here's why we call that interference, offense or defense. Same way with personal foul, why we call it late hit, hit above the shoulders, and then definitely unsportsmanlike. If we have an unsportsmanlike conduct, we need to go over and explain it to a coach, because that's a serious call, and that player gets a second one, they're ejected. If a coach gets a second one, they're ejected. So they need an explanation on all unsportsmanlike conduct. And definitely as a crew, if you have an ejection, get together, talk it out, make sure that's, 3 of the 5 may have seen the play, the other 2 may not have. That's fine, but we get input from everybody before we hit an ejection from a player, say for a targeting or an egregious hit. We want to make sure that, because high school, it's a severe penalty. They're out the rest of that game and the next game, and there's only 8 regular season games. And that's the high school league's philosophy. Ejections are, be cautious with them, make sure, but they, as Nickleby will say, if they earned it, give it to them. But when in doubt, penalize, but don't eject. And that's your white hat will monitor that and govern that. But again, that's Minnesota philosophy. But again, as Nickleby says, if they earned one, give it to them. Make the penalty be there. And you'll hear this from Mike Spanier, our coordinator of officials, throughout the season and in previous seasons. Make the penalty be there. Make it, I'm talking fair play penalties, not safety or sportsmanship. Point of attack. The ball's going to the left side of the formation, and I've got the right tackle holding. You're not going to call that. If you get a chance in between plays, tell him, watch your hands, be careful. Now he knows you're looking and he saw what he did. Don't go in and say, next time you do that, I'm going to call it. Because now you put yourself in a spot that says, if he does it again, you have to call it. It's just like kids at home. You give them that warning, but second time wasn't quite as bad. So now he's okay. And I didn't say what I was going to do. Don't warn him. I always use the words, watch your hands, be careful, ease up at the end of the play, something like that. Lets them know you're seeing things, but also letting them know that you didn't call it, but you saw it. They kind of now know how you're going to look at stuff. I also had a habit of complimenting players as long as I could do it when the other team couldn't hear it. So I may have, as a white hat, I may have somebody come in and ease up and not rough the quarterback. And if I can't, say it was 55 on the defensive line, as they're going back after the play, I may get him and say, 55, thanks for holding up. Don't let the offense hear that, because now the offense goes over to their coach and says, hey, they're complimenting their players. They're telling them they're doing a good job. That doesn't go well. So that's what you're doing, but keep it discreet. Same thing on a potential late hit or potential taunting situations. Compliment them if they act and perform the way they should and the way we want them to. Give them that attaboy discreetly, and then also caution them if they're doing something same way discreetly, so that the other team says they said he was holding, but they didn't call it. Just be discreet with that, and it goes a long way throughout the course of the game. We're all responsible for accuracy of penalty enforcements. Umpires will mark it off in discussion with the referee, of course. But we've got the radios, and we got to make sure we're marking them from the right spot, the right number of yards. Is it a loss of down or not a loss of down? Are we repeating the down? So that takes focus and being comfortable. Wing officials, you are going to be the first person community. The coach is going to ask you what his options are on penalties. Most of them, they know. Most penalty situations, they know what they are. But some of them, if it's a loss of down or not, they may not be sure. They're going to be asking you, what are my options? If you're not sure, and especially if it's a weird play that you'd never see, I know I got to check with Bill, my white hat. That's fine. But if it's the third or fourth time during the game you said that, now your coach is losing a little confidence in your abilities and your knowledge. So be comfortable, get into the rule book on play situations. If you have a case book, use that case book on penalty enforcement rules. And when in doubt, ask questions. We want efficiency, but we don't want to sprint through penalty enforcements, because that's where we make mistakes. Go from the wrong yard line, go 6 yards instead of 5, that type of thing. If the turf fields are fantastic and they help the accuracy 100%, but we're not all there yet. If you do have a penalty, you're calling a penalty on a play. If it's a play, if it's a situation that prevents the snap of the ball, false start, encroachment by the defense, because in high school, defense comes into the neutral zone, that kills the play right away. The other 2 levels let them get back, and if they're back before the snap, it's good. We have to kill it. Okay, so, and also delay a game for our back judges. Okay, those are the ones that will shut down a play or an illegal substitution, which is usually the white hat calling that before the play takes off. We're killing those. But if you have a penalty during a live ball, once the ball is snapped or kicked legally, there is no penalty in the rule book that stops that play except the result of the play. The end of the play kills the play. It's not basketball. You see a foul, you kill the play right away. Once that play starts in football, you carry it out into the play, and then we start our penalty enforcement. So if you have a penalty during a live ball play, obviously you've got your flag. Continue to referee the rest of the play. Okay, you're not taking the rest of that play off. You need to officiate. When the play is over, first thing that official has to do is kill the clock, because we got to go into penalty enforcement mode. Our clock operators are very good, but they only do 4 home games a year. If they're a good team, they get 1 or 2 section playoff games. That's it. They've done it for 10 years, but they've only done 40 games. And it's in increments of 4 every year. So we have to be good with our signals and tell them when to stop the clock and when not to. I've had referees complain about clock operators, and I've told them, you better be accurate when you're telling us start it and stop it, because I'm seeing way too many times officials not killing the clock when they have a penalty during the play. And Gopher State has gotten sloppy with that. I see it on game film, and I bring it up all the time. If it's a false start situation, whistle, flag, kill the clock. Even if the clock's already dead because it was a dead ball situation, get into the habit. And that's what's happened. We've gotten out of that habit. And if that clock operator is doing what he's supposed to do, and that is don't stop it until we tell him to, we're going to have bigger problems. So they're very good, but you can't count on them. We need to be doing that. So you've killed the clock. You've let your referee blow your whistle afterwards. Even if you didn't have the end of the run spot. If you're the umpire and you're trailing and the play goes another 10 yards, kill the clock with your signal and blowing your whistle till your white hat, you have his attention. That way we don't move the chains for a first down. If it's an offensive penalty, that'll be accepted. So we don't want to be wings. We don't want to be in a hurry to tell those chains to be moving. Tell them to watch us. If they see a penalty on the play, never move until everything is settled down. Then you'll get to your referee, but then you got to go through a sequence. What was the result of the play? Tackle inbounds, first down, incomplete pass, complete pass downfield. Let him know what the result of the play is, because that could enter into how he explains the penalty option to the captains. If it's an incomplete pass downfield, he's not going to know that. He better not know it because he's supposed to be protecting the quarterback. He may know by crowd noise, and you kind of get to a habit of, or not habit, you kind of get knowledge of what that means. But you need to let him know. If it was an interception and a penalty in the offense, you know they're going to decline it. But he needs to know result of the play. Then you get into, I've got holding, and then which team, offense or defense, kicking team, receiving team. Don't say white jersey or blue jersey, because he's got to think who's on offense, who's on defense. What the penalty, result of the play, what the penalty is, who committed the penalty, which team, offense, defense, again, receiving team, kicking team. If you can, give him a number, because if we announce over the mic on the PA system, we are authorized to give player numbers. At first, we weren't, because they didn't want to shame the player, embarrass the player. That's out the window. Holding number 22, offense. That's the last thing you need to worry about. But if you can get the number, it helps sell it. I wasn't real good at it in college, because I myself was more worried about officiating the rest of the play than stops. Okay, what is that guy's number? And then I didn't want to miss the rest of the play. So if you ask apart, hey, who do you think that number was? If you can get it, that's all the better. If there's 2 flags on a penalty, 2 different officials, get together to make and talk about what each one of you has. Don't assume they have the same thing you do. Okay, because now if they do, then one of you goes to the referee and say, and go through that thing. If it's both, you both have something different, then you both have to go to the white hat and say, here's what I got, here's what Harvey's got, and then we sort that out. I was aware of one play in Northern Sun when I worked in that. I wasn't on a game, fortunately. And the back judge and the deep wing on the sideline each had a flag on a pass play. They got together. One had offensive interference, one had defensive interference. So they went to the white hat. They talked it through. Neither one would back down from their call. So then the white hat he had 2 options. Take one of the calls, the one he felt based on explanation was maybe the most accurate, or offset the penalties, which is kind of strange on an offensive and defensive play, but that's what they did. They offset it. But if you have 2 flags, do not assume the other official has the same thing you have. Make sure you each have, discuss what you have. If you have the same, one of you goes to the referee. In the rule book, you'll start learning where certain fouls and penalties are spot foul penalties. If you have a false start, pre-snap penalty, that's not a spot. We know what the spot is. It's the line of scrimmage. Your flag can go straight up. You don't have to have it land on the 42-yard line if that's the line of scrimmage. It can go straight up. If we have a running play, you have a holding call. That spot of the foul may be where we enforce it from. Depends on what happens the rest of the play. So know that so you can get it on the yard line or as close to it as you can. After the play, if you knew the winds blew it 2 or 3 yards the wrong way, after the play's over, go move your flag up and then talk to your white hat and say, here's what we've got. If we have 2 penalties, 2 flags on the same holding call, okay, that's fine. 2 flags, they aren't going to be on the same yard line. I mean, that's too much to ask for. One of you is going to have to move your flag. You agree where it's going to go from and put both flags together. Because if you mark it off at one coach say, hey, wait a minute, why didn't you take it off the other point? So on a spot foul, we more than likely are going to go from the spot of the foul where the flag is. If you have 2 penalties on it, 2 flags, you have the same call, put them together. So the umpire knows which spot to mark off from, and the other coaches aren't going to be saying, hey, I'm getting screwed by 5 yards or something. So just again, little things most people aren't going to notice. We're going to notice, as they're going to help us get through the game more accurately and with fewer issues. Each of us has areas of responsibility on every play. So for the wings, you've got the line of scrimmage from the center out towards you. You're not going to call a false start on the other side of the center. That's your wing across the sideline. If for some reason he freezes, or if you have an encroachment on the other side of the center and it's obvious, and for some reason he's zoned out and doesn't have it, that's okay for you to do that. But you're secondary on that, because you don't want to get in the habit of calling it over there, because he may say, I don't think that, I'm not calling that tonight for false start. We don't want you calling it from the other side, because then the coaches are going to be on you all night long for calls on the other side of the field. Then once the play develops for the wings, you got the line of scrimmage towards the goal line. Okay, you own the sideline all the way down. Change of possession, you own the sideline all the way to the other end zone. So the goal line, that's your target at some point, but you own that side of the field, basically the middle of the field to the sideline, or I should say the hash to the sideline. The back judge is going to own the middle of that field, up and down, north and south, or the vertical part of that. That's their area to, as primary. You can be secondary on some plays and be looking in there, but they're going to take care of that area. Referee's got his quadrant behind the line. Umpire's got his quadrant behind the line. You don't have as much field you're responsible for with a 5-man crew, but you have those areas. We don't want you calling holding on the other side of the field, because it's not at your point of attack, or point of attack's not in your area, I should say. Wings can coordinate with the back judge on some calls. Could have a pass over the middle. It is a catch, no catch down. Was it trapped or not? Square up, go up the sideline and square in. You may have to get together with your back judge. You may have a play at the goal line. Back judge is back there at the goal line and he's coming down the sideline. And if you in the wing, if you have him stepping out at the 4-yard line, the back judge isn't necessarily going to know that. He may keep running straight ahead. You're killing the clock on the run. You're blowing your whistle and you're killing the clock on the run. Don't wait till you get to that 4-yard line spot and then kill the clock and blow your whistle. He stepped out of bounds. That kills the play. That kills the clock. Get used to doing this on the run, blowing your whistle, waving your arms and running at the same time, and don't trip. So it'll feel funny at first, but you may have to coordinate with that back judge. Did he get inside the pylon? Or did he go outside the pylon? Get together and talk. And then one of you goes up with the hands or not. You just put it at the 1-yard line and bring it in and set it down. You've got someone to confer with now, both wings. You'll have an umpire or a referee to help you on things behind the line if you get involved in it, but mainly it's that back judge coordination. On alignments, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a question. So penalties across the field, I think this is rhetorical, but if I see a face mask on my side and my wing opposite is straight lined on it or something and he doesn't flag, I'm calling that. So
Yes.
safety penalties on the far side.
Yes.
If I see it, I grab
Correct.
it, right?
Make it be there. But and then you may get a question on a coach. They say, well, you're not calling pass interference over there, but how come you're doing that? Well, that's a safety thing. And sometimes on our high hits, that back judge could be further away from it. And the wing might be, like you said, Paul, straight lined and doesn't see it. He could have players in between him and he doesn't see it, or it's close to him and he doesn't have that peripheral view where a back judge or an umpire coming from the other direction or the referee. Safety ones, yes, but make sure it's there, but you definitely can't do that.
Great, thanks.
And even on some sportsmanship taunting type stuff, again, make sure, but that could happen too. But definitely on a safety, that's a good call, because you can, and I've done that in a college game when I was on a wing, and you could go the other way. The wing may throw a flag for a targeting, and you can come up and say, and here's what you do in situations like that. I'll pick on Phil. Phil's on the sideline, and he has a flag, and it's pretty obvious he's probably calling targeting or hit above the head. And the back judge may have a view thing. I think that was pretty good. So you get up there, and if you're questioning it, basically the way to do that is to go up to Phil and say, Phil, what do you have? Rather than coming in saying, Phil, that's not targeting. You ask, he had a call, ask him what he has, and you'll be able to tell how, by his description, how confident he is of that call. And you can ask him, do you feel good on it? Because from my angle, I'm not so sure. Don't come in trying to overrule him. Come in to try to make sure he has what he has is right, or we can pick that up. There's not a problem picking up flags, but don't come in as a secondary official and waving it off and say, no. I said, talk first. He had a call for a reason. He may say, I really wasn't positive on that, but it was safety. I figured I had to call it. And sometimes if you're the official that's closest to it, you don't get the full view. So it can go both ways. That's where you talk about it. Definitely, if you have a targeting with ejection, you got to talk about those. But again, if they earn it, give it to them. And we have had it. High school league will support us all the way, but they want to help us get it right as well. Yeah, but they will support us on our calls. Again, penalty situations, make sure it's at the point of attack. And the umpire is going to be responsible for the center, left guard, left tackle. Always on the left side of the formation. Referee's got the right guard, right tackle at the snap. And then as the play develops, the umpire's really watching the blocking. Eventually, a white hat has to put his attention to the quarterback, assuming it's a drop back pass when he gets threatened. If the quarterback or whoever has the ball, the quarterback rolls left and gets past the umpire, goes past the face of the umpire is going to be lining up behind the tackle on the outside leg, right straight behind him, about 12 yards deep. If that quarterback rolls past the umpire is now responsible for that quarterback on roughing a passer and potential grounding. Used to be the referee would chase them all the way to the left sideline. Now, if they get past that umpire and they have to get past them, umpire trails it basically. And the umpire, then if he cuts up field and runs, umpire has to stay with him. The referee cleans up back behind. So we're trading responsibilities when that quarterback rolls left. And most of our quarterbacks are right-handed, but it can happen. But then the referee takes them, obviously, going the other way. That was a change last year in mechanics. And nickel, it took the Division I level 8 years before they let the umpire, or the center judge, as they call it, get involved on that. Up until that, for the first 8 years of the center judge being back there, the referee went sideline to sideline. In year 7, year 7, Nickleby flagged somebody as a center judge for roughing a passer. And they all have position coaches, and they look at their game film every week. And he asked him why you made that call. It's not your call. Jason told me this. He says, why wouldn't I make it? It was right in front of me. The next year, they changed the mechanic. So the Nickleby rule is in on that mechanic anyway. But it makes sense, but we needed to get comfortable with it at the high school level. We made the change in year 3. As Nickleby says, it took the NCAA 8 years to do it. So, because we're that much better. But keys for back judges and wings: strength of formation. The back judge will shade over to the strength of the formation on the offensive team. What that means is the strength of the formation. The strong side is the side that has the most eligible receivers outside the tackle. Tight end, typically, or a split end, a flanker, maybe a running back. So if there's 3 to the offensive team's right side, a tight end, a slot back, and a flanker, and they're all outside that right tackle, the back judge is going to shade over to that side of the formation, because that way the wing doesn't have to have three players coming off the line that he's responsible for. Coordinate be honest with you, I don't remember what the book says. I think the back judge takes the inside receiver and the wing takes the 2 outside receivers. Coordinate that on your crew on what you're doing. Because so that as a wing, if you get 2 people, you're watching the right 2 people, and you know what your back judge is watching. If they go in motion, go to the other side, the back judge can float over to the other side. If it's even strength, the mantra is the back judge declares the line judge person's side of the field as the strength. Now, we change sidelines at halftime for the wings, like the college and pros do. So we start out the game with your white hat's going to say, one of you's the line judge. The other one is now called, new term, down judge. We don't have head linesmen anymore. We're following NFL and the colleges. Now, if there's more women into it, we're not calling them linesmen. We're calling them down judges. The line judge starts the game with the chains and switches to the other side of the field, second half. The down judge goes to the chains, second half. Notice I said line judge person. Whoever's the line judge is the line judge person throughout the game, regardless of which sideline they're on. Okay. It used to be, I'll use the down judge term, it used to be the down judges with the change the whole game, and the line judge was with the home team. But now that we're swapping, we keep our label, line judge or down judge, regardless of which sideline we're on. So if it's even strength, the back judge is going to declare whoever the line judge person is, which is the one who started with the chains. I know this gets confusing. And then that's the strength of the formation. So that the wing and back judge know who they're looking at coming off the line of scrimmage. Very important. I harp on this, and you'll see it in huddle reviews that I give crews, is we have way too many wing officials watching the quarterback on pass plays. We've got 2 officials back there. We don't need 4. Okay. At the snap, the line judge looks to see what the tackle on his side of the formation does. If that tackle goes into pass block, drops back a couple of steps, pass block formation or technique, that wing says, I've got a pass play. You see what he does first, what kind of, if he does any initial block, now you've got to look at your key coming off the line of scrimmage. Maybe two players, if they have trips or 4 to that side. That's where you need to know who's got which player coming off the line between you and the back judge. You've got to watch them coming off the line. Make sure they don't get held by the defense. Make sure they don't push off or grab a face mask and go. Doesn't happen very often. You've got to watch to see what's going on there. We can't leave the back judge as the only person looking at potential pass interference and holding going downfield. We don't need 4 officials on the quarterback. We need 3 officials on the players going downfield. It's okay. In fact, you even need to, as a wing, you need to peek back to see what that quarterback's doing, because he may have to scramble. It's supposed to be a pass play. He may have to scramble. See what he's doing, but still keep your focus on your keys downfield. And so that way you can know if he's rolling the other way, you're not going to have pass interference over here. He may do something or hold, but we're not going to call it. But you might call it if you don't know where that quarterback's going. But again, you take multiple peeks during that play, depending upon how long the play takes to develop. But you are not focusing on that quarterback. If you read run block, you're watching the blocking until you pick up the ball carrier, if the ball carrier's on your side of the formation. Ball carrier's going the other way, you're not following him. You're looking at that stuff behind the play. So you don't have any cheap shots, any blocks below the waist, pushes from behind, safety type stuff by the players that are totally out of the play. We do, though, at the end of the play, want our wings to mirror up on the same yard line of where the run ends. So let's say we have an 8-yard gain. You're going to trail the play, both wings. If it goes to the other side of the field, as I'll pick on Kevin Johnson. Kevin's got the play over there. It ends 8 yards ahead of him. He runs up to the end of the run spot, comes in at his 90-degree angle. Phil's on the opposite side. He needs to come up and angle in 90 degrees at the same yard line. Okay, he doesn't have to be running same yard line with Kevin all the way along, but he needs to hustle up and get to the end of the run spot. It helps sell the spot, especially on a potential first down. It also helps if for some reason Kevin gets taken out of the play or he gets players in his way and he's not really sure what the end of the run spot is. Phil can help out on that. In fact, the pros are fantastic on. They call it cross-field mechanics. And on plays that end on a sideline, the official on that sideline is trailing the play. He'll come up and he's looking across the field to see where that other official is lining up for the end of the run spot. And that's what he mirrors off of him. He doesn't have to worry about where he went out of bounds or if they went out of bounds, where was it? They're experts at it. College is getting better. We're just now starting to emphasize that. It can help us a few times every game and sometimes in a critical situation. Back judges, you're lining up probably 18 to 20 yards deep. And if the safety is deeper than that, you have to line up behind the safety. I'm talking regular scrimmage play. Don't have that safety be behind you. If he's 25 yards back, you've got to be back there too. We had a few schools many years ago would put their safety 25 yards back. I don't know why, but they did. They weren't very good defensively either, but for some reason they did that. You don't want any play. First of all, you don't want any ball caught behind you. So as you see the play develop, you're backpedaling. And if it's a long pass, you've got to be as deep as that receiver by the time the ball comes down. You don't want the receiver catching it. If you're at the 35 going in, you don't want him catching that ball at the 28-yard line and you're playing catch up. You may not beat him to the goal line. You probably won't. But we don't want you inside of him, if you will, catching the pass because you're going to be out of position. And it happens, though. So get comfortable with your backpedaling. And you can turn and go. You don't have to backpedal the whole time. But just remember, if they have a fly pattern going and they swing it underneath, you've got two officials at the sideline taking care of that until you know for sure where that pass goes. Talk about something we hardly ever did in lower level, and that was by design, is measurements. Hopefully we don't do too many in lower level because our chain crews aren't any good. They don't want to be there, and their kids or whomever. So measurements. Like I said, check the wings, check the chains, make sure they're good. We need to have a clip. I should have brought mine in the office here, but the down judge should have a clip with them and give it to many chain crews have their own, but have one just in case they don't. And I say down judge because you're with the chains at the end of the game, grab it and go. Don't count on your line judge to remember to do that if he was over on that side of the field. So down judge should have a clip. I always had one as a line judge in college. It doesn't hurt to have two. What happens is if the chain crew, let's say we're starting a series on the 28-yard line, the A28-yard line. They're going to put that clip on the first solid line, 5-yard line, 10-yard line, 15, 20, the first solid line closest to the back stake. Now, if it's really back close together, they'll do it at the middle, the 5-yard line mark. But know where they're clipping that, because if we have to go for a measurement, whoever's on that sideline for that measurement takes the clip in their hand, takes the chain in hand, keep a hold of that clip. If it's clipped inside of a link, you don't want that coming off because you're may go all the way across the field. You may only have to go up 4 yards. You need that to put that down on the spot on that yard line so they can stretch the chain to see if it's first down. If they're short, hang on to that clip, take it all the way back to the sideline. Make sure they're set up again because we may have another measurement because they didn't make the first down. If they make the first down, you don't need to hang on to that clip or the chain, let them go. Because the other situation, we don't want that clip coming off as it dangles across the dirt or the grass and the ground. So that's just as bad. That looks bad for us. So if they made the first down, let it go. If the clip comes off, they'll grab it and put it on. Never happens until you don't do it, and then we have a problem. So for the measurement, then the guys with the poles, they'll bring it out, and the back judge is once the play's over with, the back judge will secure the ball on the ground as the chains come out. The umpire will take that front stick from that chain crew, stretch it out. The referee will make the decision first down or not. Back judge has to secure that ball during that measurement so it doesn't get kicked or move around or the wind blow it. If we get a real windy day, especially on some turf fields, the wind can blow that ball around a little bit on the ground. So hang on to it, secure it with your hand till the measurement's over. If we're short, we may need to go into the hash mark. The referee will take the ball and the chains and he'll take it up and clip it. Back judge's duties are done. The person that's opposite the chains will just help them line up vertically to make sure they're not kind of going this way, make it go sure they're going straight up and down the field. And the referee makes the decision. Sometimes they're very close. The turf fields help us cut down on having measurements. And the other thing it helps us on not having measurement, is on a change of possession play, kickoff, interception, fumble, and he gets tackled at the 33.5-yard line. Place the ball on the 34 or the 33. Don't have the ball in between yard lines at the beginning of a series on a change of possession. It doesn't, if you give them an extra half yard, no big deal. Nobody's going to bitch because we don't want those chains lining up halfway in between yard lines. If you have a 3rd and 8 and they go for 12 yards, mark it at the end of the run on a yard line, 22-yard line, 23, 20, whatever it is, unless a measurement it could be involved. Get it every time we can start a series on a yard line. Let's do it. You get close to the goal line, those half yards are precious. We need to be more exact, but that'll help us minimize measurements, and coaches aren't going to bitch on any of that. Kicking plays. Okay, kickoffs. This is definitely different than what you had in lower level. The umpire is on the 50-yard line or the 10 yards up from the kicking line. We'll assume kicking from the 40. Back judge has the kicking line. Okay, when the ball is kicked, assuming they kick downfield, the umpire let the kicking team run past you. They're coming from 10 yards away. Let them get past you. Umpires come onto the field about 3/4 of the way to, or about to the numbers. Back judge does the same thing. Once the ball is kicked downfield, the two wings have responsibility for that sideline all the way down the field. Umpires and back judges stay away from the sideline. Get onto the field, and you're working the rest of the play. If it's a long return, you're staying on the field. You can move inward or outward a little bit, but stay off the sideline. That belongs to the wings, and they'll have that spot all the way down. Now, if it's a kick out of bounds, then nothing's going to happen there. But if we have an onside kick, everybody stays wide. Umpire and back judge don't come in. Onside kick, you wait till the play's over and figure out what you have, and then you come in. Most of them get kicked deep, not very deep necessarily. Wings start on the goal line and then come up. But just be ready you're looking at blocking. Biggest thing is a low block, and it could be by a kicking team player. Blocking a receiving team player low to take out blockers. Or I've got a 77 coming straight at me on the receiving team, and I'm number 22, and I'm the 3rd string defensive back, and he's coming at me. It's a life and death for him. He either runs to get out of the way, but he may want to cut low so he doesn't get hit. That's a penalty. You can see that. Receiving team also can. Sitting on a kicking play, change of possession, nobody can block low. The other thing is looking for blocks in the back. The receiving team cannot block in the back, obviously. My definition of a block in the back is if that blocker has his hand on the number and the back of his jersey or just close to it, and that emphasis is that way, that's a block in the back. If it's on the shoulder and just inside of it a little bit, but nowhere near the number, I try to make that a legal block as much as I can. But again, you're looking for the illegal block, and you can see them coming or the potential of them. The other thing we're looking for, like all change of possession plays, players are coming from angles that are way different than a scrimmage play. They're coming from sideline to sideline at an angle. You're going to get blindside blocks, blocks in the back. We got to be alert for those. And at the end of the play, on every play, one official has the end of the run spot. The rest of us have an umbrella coverage around that area. All the other 4 officials. It could be even on the other side of the field. You're looking for dumb stuff out in the middle of the field, but it can happen. We don't need 4 sets of eyes or 5 sets of eyes on the ball at the end of the play. Just the covering official. Everybody else has their scope, their radar up, head on a swivel, looking back and forth to see what's going on, and make sure we don't have cheap shots or just late hits, because those are safety related and concussion prone, and that's what we really got to be taking a look for. And that's on every change of possession play: interception return, fumble return, kickoff return. My trick for me mentally was, I would say to myself, which color jersey is on offense on a change of possession, or who has possession? I'd say offense, white jersey, offense, white jersey. That means the black jersey team can block me like behind, block in the back, because they're not the offensive team. I want to make sure I know which team has the ball, so they're the ones that are restricted on that block in the back. Nobody can block low. I had to do that. I hated punt plays when I was in college on the line of scrimmage. They're just ripe for weird things to happen, different types of rules, and then strange hits. I worked with a guy in a college crew, 7-man crew, and we were doing pregame stuff. I said, okay, Wings, what are you looking for on punt plays? And we went around the horn and asked Jason Frank, our back judge, what are you doing pre-snap on punts? And he says, saying a prayer. He says, what are you talking about? I'm saying, block that kick, block that kick. He didn't want it down there at his feet because it's potential chaos for him. So all pre-snap, you're kind of looking at down distance and all that stuff. Just got to look, what are my responsibilities on this next play? And then when you have a change of possession on interception or fumble, reverse mechanics come into play, and you're looking at it. The play's coming at you now as a wing from a different angle, and going towards the referee and going towards the umpire, where the other plays are going away from them. The back judge then has cleanup behind the play. So it's reverse mechanics on that stuff. And we have them. 16% of plays in high school are kicking plays. That's 1 out of 6 plays. Now that includes extra point kicks in that number, because they are a kicking play and have some uniqueness to them. So it maybe be closer to 13 or 14 if you took those out. But a field goal is a scrimmage kick, just like a punt, except it can score 3 points. Once that field goal has crossed the line of scrimmage, punt rules are in effect. If it goes out of bounds at the 13-yard line, that's where we put the ball in play. It doesn't go back to the previous spot. It doesn't go to the 20-yard line. It goes wherever it went out of bounds. It's not the college rule or the pro rule. And I remind our officials, field goals are scrimmage kick. By definition, they are a scrimmage kick. And in definition, rule number 2, it's a scrimmage kick that can score 3 points. And then punt rules are in effect once that play develops, and you can have a block and all of that stuff. I won't get into those, but I hated kicking plays. And I was lucky over the years that we didn't have 3 penalties on a kicking play and a fumble recovery and a change of possession. And, you know, how do we do this? So it gets really, those get tough. Extra points. If we have a kick, once that kick's made, basically that plays over other than determine success or unsuccessful. If it's blocked, nobody can pick it up. Okay, in high school football, they cannot be returned. They have not gone to that yet. A fumble on a running play, they're going for 2. Offense fumbles it. Offense can pick it up, continue to pick it up and run. Defense gets it, you kill the play. So I don't encourage some crews will, once the ball is kicked on an extra point play, they'll blow the back judge will blow his whistle. And technically that's okay because basically the play's over except for determination of the success or lack thereof. But I don't want them getting the habit of doing that because they could have a ball at the 4-yard line and they're kicking a field goal. And for all intents and purposes, it looks like an extra point. And he kicks it, it's blocked, and he blows his whistle because that's what he always does in that situation. Just there's nothing to be gained by doing it early, and risk to happen later if you have in a field goal situation. So, passing plays. We'll wrap up here probably the next 5-10 minutes. Passing plays, wings. You're no longer a fan. You're not watching the football. Like I said, you can peek back to see what the quarterback's doing with it, but you're watching your key and seeing what's happening downfield. In looking at game film, I still see too many officials on the wing looking back at the quarterback throughout the whole play and then following the flight of the ball. And I picked up at a college clinic many years ago from a referee, experienced Division I Big Ten referee, says, why are you watching the football in the air? Because it's never committed a penalty and it can't. That's nothing up there. It's what are those players down on the field doing in anticipation of the ball. It's true on a punt. Peek to see if it's shaking out of bounds on your sideline. Other than that, you're watching players going downfield. The line judge person is responsible to release on punts when it clears the line of scrimmage to go downfield and help the back judge. The other official, the down judge, holds the line until the ball clears scrimmage line, and then we're looking at blocking out in front of that receiver. So again, don't be watching the ball. Watch your keys. Take a peek to see where the ball's going, but that's it. Let's see. Just a couple more things. Overtime. High school rule, each level of football, high school, college, and pro, have a different format for overtime. And high school has, some may say, the most unusual. It's 1st and goal at the 10-yard line. Coin flip determines the winner gets offense, defense, or the end of the field. And it is always 1st and goal to start out with, unless you have even if you have a carryover penalty, say a 15-yard unsportsmanlike at the end of the game, and the team that committed the penalty is starting on offense, they're going to start on their 25-yard line, 1st and goal. It is not 1st and 10. I won't go through all the scenarios, but get into the rule book on overtime. It doesn't happen often, but get into the rule book and make sure we know what we're doing. Everybody should be doing that. There's some different rules. No carryover overtimes or timeouts. If neither team scores or it's still tied, we go back again, 1st and goal. And we swap. Whoever lost the toss gets the choice, and we go back and forth. We only flip one time. We don't have many overtimes, and usually it's done within one session, but they can go multiple. So the same rules are in play multiple times. College and pro have gone that if, I think after 2 tries and it's still tied, if they get a touchdown, they have to go for 2 points. High school has not gone to that yet. It's still a 1-point kick if they want to do that, no matter if it's a 3rd or 10th overtime. As far as I know, that's still the case. Let's see, that's about it. We will have, we utilize an application called Huddle for game film. The associations here in the metro area, plus Rochester and Mankato, join together and get a license every year. And so it did multiple groups because it helps us cut down our costs. And not all schools use Huddle. Some have gone away from it, but we're still with that. And I asked every school to send in game film for every game, and it's about, at best, 50-50. So what will happen is if I will set you guys up in Huddle, and if you're not in there already, you'll get a notification from Huddle once I get that done. And I'll get that done before the season starts. Then you set up your password. And the username will be your email address. Then if and when I get game film from a school, I put it into Huddle, and then I send it out to the crew that worked the game. I can't go out and pull the game from any place in Huddle because I don't have access. They have to send it via Huddle to a library that I can pull it from and then send it out to the crew. And if you're on if your game, if we get one, I send them out same day. I monitor that every day. Hopefully you get it early in the week so you can look at it before your next game. Doesn't always happen. I would say probably a third of the game film I got this year was after the season was over, which is unfortunate, but it still gave us an opportunity to view our games and learn from them. So you can ask me if it's coming in, but know that if it's not, if you haven't seen an email come, what you will do is you'll get an email from Huddle saying, with a link, hit the link, log in, and you'll find your game usually on the team that sent it in. I have every team in the system. Just depends on which team I get it from. I put it in that sub library, and you can go there and watch it as many times as you want. You can't share it with anybody, but that at the end of the year, over the winter months, I evaluate at least 2 game films for each crew. And sometimes I have to go to a school, and if I don't have one from a particular crew, I'll go out and say, I need this particular game film, and then they'll send it to me. But I evaluate and give observation reports back to every crew at least 2 games. And it's positive and negative comments, play number, and a category of play. Play 33 was a punt play. Here was the result of the play, and then my comment, good coverage. Most of my comments, 90% of them will be related to mechanics and positioning. The game film isn't good enough for me to comment on that was a good holding call unless it's really obvious, or pass interference, because it's good game film, but it's not that precise. Some schools give us sideline and end zone view, which is better. Some will give us a far view and a close view. Not many, but some do, so that's helpful. It'll probably take you anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour to watch your game when you get one. What I urge the wings particularly to do, let's say we have a play in it. I'll pick on Kevin and let's see, Adam's gonna be a back judge. Let's see, unfortunately Phil had to get off. But let's say for 2 wings. Well, see, we have 2 wings. If I have a play that goes to Kevin's side, it goes to my side. Okay, I'll do it this way. Goes to my side, and there's a problem with it. I was in bad position. I was the one watching game film or the ball, because I can tell that film is filmed from behind you. I can see where you're looking by the movement of your head. So there's one, and I get dinged, say, hey, don't watch the quarterback, watch your key. Kevin, even though that happened to me, don't just look at what happened that you did or what happened to you in your game film. Look to see what happened to your buddy. Because eventually a bang play, a blow up play, a strange play, it's going to come your way eventually, sometime during the season. Didn't have it in this game. I'm fine. I look, there's 6 plays there that I need to really zero in on what happened to your co-official across the way and learn from what happened to him. What he did good, what looked like it was negative, in your mind, because those plays are going to come your way eventually. The umpire and referee can do the same thing because they're looking at the same stuff. Back judge is kind of you only. We don't always see the back judge and referee umpires in our game films. Depends on how narrow view they take. And they stop it at the end of a play, and then they start it maybe 5 seconds before the next play starts, because they're paying for storage space. So the more dead time they have on film, the more they're paying. So they'll cut it off at the end of the play, so we don't see penalty enforcements. I see the result of a penalty enforcement, and I may have a comment say, wait a minute, the flag was at the 33, it was a holding call, and you went back to the 29. What's going on? So I can look to see, it looks like there's some an issue with the penalty enforcement after the fact. One rule change this year that's key. I should have started out with it. Offensive penalties, scrimmage plays, offensive team penalties that occur behind the line of scrimmage will be enforced from the line of scrimmage. That's new. It's fantastic. Every other level does that. What was happening is we get an offensive holding call 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That was a spot foul in the past. We penalize them 10. Now it's a 15-yard penalty. 1st and 25. High school teams can't overcome that. It's taken years to get that rule changed, and they've had many times. They have a convention every year. They be in the federation. They go through rule recommendations and submissions. It's kind of like Congress. Each state gets a vote and majority rules, and it finally got passed to change that enforcement spot. So usually it's holding. It could be an illegal block below the waist. Could be a face mask because they pulled us down, hands to the face. It's not just holding, but that's the majority of them. And I've heard people say, hey, holding calls are coming from the line of scrimmage now. You got to realize it's all offensive penalties behind the line of scrimmage. That's brand new this year. We got to be cognizant. It's going to be old habit to maybe go from the other spot. That's one where we all can chime in and say, hey, line of scrimmage, get on the radio, a reminder once we know what we have. So there's other rule changes that is not as critical. That is a big one. And we've been asking for it as officials for many years. And Minnesota had it submitted about 8 years ago, and it came within 2 votes of passing. And it took another 7 years to get passed. So thanks to all those that got it done last year or this past January. And Nickelby's on that committee, I believe. Either here or Bob Madison, we're voting for Minnesota, but I finally got in. So that's what I've got tonight, guys. Like I say, I did record this. And any questions you've got anytime, go to your white hat first. Phil Papke is our clinician. Varsity questions should go to him. But again, as first time on a varsity crew, first year, feel free to contact me also. I'm there with you on your first year on a varsity crew. We all have that first season. Many of you have had your first varsity game already, but we all had to get that first full season in sometime. And for me, it went for another 40 years. So good luck this year. Many years to come. Stay safe, stay healthy. And if they earned it, call it. So again, contact me anytime. Work through your white hat first on issues, but they're all good white hats, and you're in good hands. So again, good luck, everybody.
Thanks a lot, George.
All right.
Thanks a lot, George. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, where's my recording?
Thanks, George.
So I'm looking for the stop recording. Where the heck is it? Oh, here we go.